just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad.
You are now listening to Open Season. Your host, Billy Allen.
All right. It's another Tuesday. Open Season. Billy Allen. I'm your host, Billy Allen. We got a lot to toss around tonight. We got a Super Bowl matchup that's been locked up. 49ers versus the Chiefs. Who do you like? It's a 1.5 spread. It's going to be a tight one. Vegas thinks. JD Martinez and everybody else is talking about Cora's latest cheating. Did the Red Sox actually cheat? Delonte West. He doesn't have a whole lot of friends out there taking care of him. He's seen better days. As Derek Jeter is one vote shy of being a unanimous selection into the World Series, or into the Hall of Fame, my God. And I cannot believe this. It's got me stuttering. Larry Walker, this is where Larry Walker made the Hall of Fame.
That's where you draw the line.
It's just 383 home runs, a 281 batting average away from Coors Field. Granted, he hit everything in Coors Field, 381 batting average, but we'll get to that. I want to stop sweating for a minute, and that one's just going right up my tailpipe. But let's start out with a juicy little nugget that's coming out of the Red Sox. You have a couple players, and JD Martinez, confident, he says, that the Red Sox will be cleared in the investigation as if nothing is going on there. And actually, we've got a little bit of sound from our friend JD Martinez. Let's let that rip.
What happened? I don't know. You got to ask Houston that. I don't know.
Well, what does it feel like for the Red Sox to be under investigation? You've been here for a couple of years.
It sucks. I'm gonna be honest with you, it does suck. But you know what? I think I'm excited for the investigation to get over with, just so they can see that there was nothing going on here.
What wouldn't they'll find?
I believe that, yes.
So there you have it. JD Martinez believes that the Sox are going to be cleared in the investigation. He's talking about the cheating that happened with Houston. And if we go back, we know that the players mentioned that Cora was involved. And we know that, there was a lot going on with Houston. We saw the buzzers. You can't hug Jose Altuve after a win because you'll get electroshock. They had the buzzers, everything going on, but there really hasn't been a whole lot tied to the Red Sox. And I'm not saying that the Red Sox didn't cheat. I totally think that they did. But it's all kind of what you get away with. I mean, we keep hearing that everybody does this, everybody cheats. And did Cora cheat with the Red Sox? Yes, I believe he did. But it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot here to tie them to it. And now you've got some players speaking out about it. The Red Sox were the team that asked everybody to suspend judgment, hold judgment, and we've got one as we'll hold here and take a call. Hi, you're on Open Season. Who do we got?
Hey, we got Justin from Charlestown.
Hey, Justin, what's going on tonight?
Not too much. Just want to talk about the MLB, the Hall of Fame today.
Oh.
Obviously, Jeter was going to get in. I don't think he should have been a unanimous Hall of Fame, like first ballot Hall of Famer. Great player, respect him, but he was never the greatest shortstop in any year while he played for 20 years. Granted, he got drafted by the Yankees. That definitely helped, and they had a lot of success. But if he got drafted by another team, I don't see him getting into the Hall of Fame with the numbers he had.
Yeah.
And then Larry Walker getting into is just an absolute joke.
Yeah, and it's just a complete joke, and I totally agree with you. I'm always saying this to Whitey, big caller into our show, that always is saying, Derek Jeter is the greatest player ever. I'm like, if he got drafted by the Kansas City Royals, he wouldn't be anything, because what are all the adjectives we use to describe him? They're clutch, he just wins. It's all things that are associated with the team, and I do agree with you. He has put up the numbers over time to obviously be great, but he never was. I mean, those 5 years that Nomar was healthy, he was way better than Jeter, and I totally agree with you. I mean, Jeter was never the number one guy, and he even had to kind of acquiesce to A-Rod. If A-Rod wasn't willing to move over, probably has even less Gold Gloves. So. I agree with you there. I don't think that he should be. I mean, this whole last year with Mariano Rivera being unanimous and now Jeter just being one vote shy. I agree with you. I think it should be a little bit harder to get into the Hall of Fame, and I think it should be a little harder than guys for like Larry Walker to get in the Hall of Fame. 383 homers career, a 281 batting average outside of Coors Field. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm right there with you, Justin.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, I feel like I think that Bonds and Clemens should get in because it was the steroid era. Everyone that played in the steroid era, the best players of that era should get in. I think Bonds, even before steroids, was one of the best players in the league and probably would have got to the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And I also think that someone that no one talks about is Gary Sheffield. Like, why isn't he talked about as Hall of Fame? He had over 500 home runs. So when you compare him and Larry Walker, I just don't understand. It's just because Larry Walker's been on the ballot for 10 years, but it's just like, so it's been 10 years. We'll let him in now. Well, he was in there for 10 years because he wasn't qualified. People didn't vote him in for a reason.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, not to cut you off, but the crazy thing about the spike is that 2 years ago, Larry Walker was a 21% on the ballot. This year, he was a 76. So it totally backs up your point of, he just kind of sat on the ballot, and then people were like, wow, you're 8, 9, 10. The voting really cranked up for him. But through 8 years, he is a 20%er to go to the Hall of Fame. So it kind of seems like it's a year where there's no good candidates outside of, obviously, Jeter.
Yeah, exactly. And next year, there's not many good candidates, and Kurt Schilling will get in. And I mean, Kurt Schilling was a good pitcher in for the Diamondbacks, Phillies, and Red Sox, but I don't think he's a Hall of Fame pitcher, and he's going to get in. I just feel like it should be for the greatest players of every decade. It shouldn't just be, well, he's been on the ballot for 10 years and he hasn't got in yet, and he was pretty good. He was an all-star. He should get in.
Yeah. I mean, Larry Walker was only a 7-time All-Star. I just really don't see. No, 7-time Gold Glover, 5-time All-Star. It's like I just don't even see it. And he played with the most stacked team out there. So
yeah, and he played in Coors. That's why Todd Helton probably will never get in.
Yep.
The numbers are jacked up, but it's mind-boggling to me that everyone today is Derek Jeter Day when everyone respected him, but he wasn't the best player at his position. He wasn't even the best player at his position when A-Rod was there, let alone a unanimous Hall of Fame player. The only person that should have been unanimous is Ken Griffey Jr., and he even get unanimous.
Yeah, and even he was a vote off. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm right there with you, and I hope somewhere White is listening to this with his blood boiling, but yeah, I mean, I think Jeter definitely is one of those guys who, over time, kind of collected the stat. He was always a guy that was probably, in the top 5 of his position, but, not even that towards the last, 5 or so years of his career.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when he first started, there weren't many hitting shortstops.
Yep.
So he definitely was, one of the better ones. But, as players developed and shortstops were able to, develop and become hitting shortstops, he was always maybe top 10. And I never really understood why he ever got MVP votes when his whole team was stacked with all-stars. he wasn't even MVP for his own team.
I know, and he always had 130 runs or whatever, because he was always just getting hit in from all the guys that were behind him, smashing in runs.
I think his career high home runs is 23. and he's a unanimous
Yeah.
Hall of Fame player who played on probably the most stacked team.
It's like
besides,
Pedroia
the
numbers
27
right there.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. That's what baseball is. They're trying to make these Yankee players. Last year Rivera, this year Jeter. Thankfully, Clemens might not get on it, so then they'll make it about him next year. Have to get some more Red Sox in there.
Who did you say they'll make it about next year? Schilling? Or who
Clemens.
did you? Oh, Clemens. Yeah. No, I mean, it's crazy that Clemens and Bonds are at 60%, and it's the 8th year for both of those guys. I'm so surprised that the needle hasn't moved a little bit more for those guys. Are you?
Especially this year. There's not many good people on the ballot.
Yeah.
And Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, pre-steroids, were the best players, top 5 at their position in baseball.
Yeah.
And, especially Clemens.
Yeah.
So, and Clemens is probably a top 10 pitcher ever, and he's not in the Hall of Fame is a joke.
Yeah.
And that's just baseball sticking their nose in the air, trying to think they're better than everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's such hypocrisy because these guys, Barry Bonds and Clemens, they never actually tested positive for roids. So it's like you're profiling the best guys in the sport, and then you're allowing these guys that were on great teams to be able to get into the Hall of Fame. It's like, what's to say that Mariano Rivera didn't do something? What's to say that Jeter didn't do something? I mean, any of these guys could be on it, and they're literally holding off on 2 guys that you could argue are the top 5 of all time on their side of the ball. So I don't really want to be part of a Hall of Fame where Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds don't exist in it, and Derek Jeter and Larry Walker do.
And I honestly, to think that Ken Griffey Jr. didn't do anything is a joke too. I mean, if you look back at those years, Sosa, McGuire, and he was right there with home runs. Like that's, 56 home runs in 1 year is a lot, and he was doing that on a pretty regular basis in Seattle. So, and
he broke down later in his career too.
Yeah, and like Ortiz, is he not going to get in because there were it's kind of ridiculous. And honestly, I know Manny's on it, and I don't know if he'll ever get in, but to think that he was one of the best hitters for a solid decade in baseball.
Oh, I know. And at this point, honestly, Justin, you're talking about guys like Scott Rowland and Omar Vizquel making the Hall of Fame over him. That's the thing that's crazy for me is that at this point, Bobby Abreu is going to make the Hall of Fame before Manny Ramirez does. And it's just like...
Yeah. Scott Rowland, I didn't even know was on the Hall of Fame ballot. I didn't even know.
It's an absolute joke.
I looked at his stats today. He had like 2 30 home run seasons very early in his career, and after that, it was like 10, 12 home runs. How is this guy on the Hall of Fame ballot?
Well, let me tell you this, Justin. He's actually ahead of the pace that our friend was, Larry Walker, was on. It took him 8 years to get to the 21%. And Scott Rowland's already at 35%. So at this point, he's pacing to be ahead of the Larry Walker Hall of Fame track, which is just disgusting.
Scott Rowland, Larry Walker, I guarantee you people didn't even think about them since they retired. Like I honestly haven't even heard Larry Walker's name in probably a decade. And Scott Rowland, I don't even know when he retired. How are these baseball players almost getting into the Hall of Fame when there are other players that were some of the best of all time that are just sitting there because of the era that they played in and because everybody else is doing it?
Yep. I totally agree. I mean, it's like, let's punish the 2 guys that were the absolute best, bar none, no question about it. Barry Bonds, who was a 7-time MVP, and Clemens, who I think was a Cy Young winner like 7 times almost too. So it's like these 2 just generational guys that were by far, bar none, the best. Those are the 2 guys we're going to keep out, and we're going to just bring in Scott Rowland, these guys that were nice guys, played for a long time for a franchise. Derek Jeter played for a long time for a franchise. Obviously, he's going to get in at some point, but just for him to get in over guys like Bonds, over guys like Clemens, it's ridiculous. What do you think about... Go ahead.
I was going to say, McGuire and Sosa, they don't deserve to get in. I personally feel like they would have been nothing in their career without steroids. But Bonds and Cummins, they were going to be Hall of Famers before steroids even came into the picture.
These are guys that did it like 10, 15 years into their career because everybody else was, and they're like, all right, I'm the best.
They won MVPs and Cy Youngs before steroids.
Yeah, Barry Bonds was winning MVPs when he was like 185 pounds, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's Baseball Hall of Fame, though. They let a bunch of beat writers vote on the players, and if they have they had a negative interview with a player back in the day, they hold it accountable, and they won't vote for them.
Yep. And all these next-gen stats that people care about, OBP and just everything else rather than ribbies, home runs, just looking at the actual numbers. Is this guy a Hall of Famer? Yes, no. It should be a yes, no.
Exactly. I mean, Craig Biggio's in the Hall of Fame. You're telling me that he was a nice player on a overall stacked Astros team.
And what's to say he wasn't doing roids? I mean, his buddy there was doing roids with him. Bagwell was on roids, and somehow he got those guys both slipped the steroid kind of shade.
Is Bagwell in the Hall of Fame?
I think Bagwell actually is. Is he?
That's
he's not.
Joke. He was clearly doing steroids.
All right, I'm wrong on that. Bagwell is actually not in the Hall of Fame, but for some at this point, I couldn't see why he wouldn't be. Oh, yeah, actually, I'm sorry. No. Brian's correct. No, he is in the Hall of Fame. I knew it. He is in the Hall of Fame.
And you're telling me Gary Sheffield is not in the Hall of Fame, but Jeff Bagwell is.
Yeah, who were you more afraid of, Bagwell or Sheffield?
Yeah, Gary Sheffield won. I think he won World Series in both divisions, an MVP, and he did it for forever. Jeff Bagwell was a nice player for like 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Biggio was, if Pedroia was healthy for a longer period of time, he would have been Biggio. He probably would have got in too.
Oh, I know. Well, at this point, Pedroia, at this point, with Scott Rowland and some of these other guys that might get in, Omar Vizquel, I mean, Pedroia might actually make it off the merit that he has right now.
Yeah.
So
the only player in baseball today that should be unanimous is Mike Trout, and everybody else is.
Yeah.
I mean, any of the Houston players, Verlander, like all of a sudden he starts pitching well again when he goes to Houston. It's kind of a coincidence when they're cheating all the time.
Yeah, I kept wondering on this show, I've said it a bunch of times, I kept wondering how he got that second life when he went over there.
Well,
and
it wasn't just
it makes a little bit more sense. Well, hey, Justin, we appreciate you calling in tonight. Great stuff on the program, and we'll always take a call from you. So hope you have a good one, and we'll let you get back to it.
All right, tell Whitey I say Derek Jeter sucks.
All right. Well, we hope he hears that. He definitely will. We'll make sure to rub it in on him.
All right.
All right. Good. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, Justin just channeled, like, so many of my thoughts right there. Just with the Hall of Fame, and how many times have we said it where we don't want a Hall of Fame where Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds aren't in it, and then we've got to nickel and dime these other guys, and we're playing off whatever statistics. It doesn't seem like there's any. And we've got another one ringing through here. Hi, you're live on Open Season. Who do we got?
Yo, who do you think this is?
Oh, no. Mr. White?
Yo. Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, I know. I was just saying, oh, no. I was hoping you didn't hear our last caller.
Yeah, dude, you were right. My blood is boiling over here.
Oh, God.
He's my Lord. Derek Jeter is my Lord and Savior. He's the greatest New York sports athlete ever since, I would say, Mickey Mantle. And he's
better than Patrick Ewing?
How many championships did Patrick Ewing win?
But do you feel like it was Jeter, though, that won those championships?
Dude, I mean, I'm going to put it this way. He said, your last caller said he was never the best shortstop in the league. Well, who's a better shortstop of all time than Derek Jeter? Who's better? I mean, you can't
Wasn't
say
Ty
A-Rod,
Cobb a shortstop?
Of course, A-Rod, that argument can always be true because it's like, oh, well, A-Rod was an actual better shortstop. Well, you know what? You know what A-Rod's postseason batting average is? 260. You know what Jeter's is? 310. You know what? Actually, no, it's 309. You know what his lifetime batting average is? 310. So as the game speeds up for literally every baseball player in the postseason, his batting average was virtually unchanged. Like, the dude was clutch.
I get that he was clutch, but I just feel like a lot of the things that we use with Jeter, he's clutch, wins. It's all kind of tied to being on an amazing team. Now, it's not saying he doesn't have the great numbers over time. Clearly, 3,500 hits almost is what I think you were saying it earlier today is almost sixth all time. You know, he's got numbers.
Sixth all time hits, but look at his Yankee records. All right, and when you think of the Yankees, you think of Yogi Berra, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, and you know what? He's played more games than all of them. He has the most hits in the Yankee franchise. He has the most doubles. He has the second most runs scored, and he's first in stolen bases. So he literally, most people say he's not the best Yankee ever, but he's had the best career of any Yankee. When you look at his stats, over the course of his career, the guy was a legend in New York. He never got into any off-field problems. He never did steroids. I mean, you can say, "Oh, how do you not know that?" Steroids.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
His body has been the same his whole career. He's never had injury. Look at Nomar, dude. Oh, yeah, Nomar was a better shortstop. You know what? Well, the dude did roids, and his body broke down because of it. And you know what? Jeter didn't. So he stayed healthy throughout his career. His stats never spiked. Like you look at these steroids, dudes. Their stats spike when they do roids. Even A-Rod, like the best postseason of A-Rod's career, he was roided out of his mind. Jeter was consistent. He had consistent stats every single year.
You say this like you know it, man. I mean, do you remember Jason Grimsley, the guy that was dealing PEDs? He was like a middle reliever. He had like a 5 ERA. I mean, I'm just saying, we don't know. The only thing I'm trying to say, Whitey, I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just saying we don't know about any of these guys. And we're saying, okay, you can't get in because we think you did, and you can because we think you didn't. Don't you think that's a little bit messed up? Like,
I'm not gonna disagree with you or the previous caller. Like, I do think Bond should be in. I do think Roger Clemens should be in. So let's just put that out there. Like, I don't really care. Everyone was doing steroids, but that gives even more credit to Jeter. He didn't need to do steroids to be one of the best shortstops of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing about Jeter was he wasn't special at anything. He was just very good at everything. You know what I mean? Like, he was not a power hitter. I mean, he's not like Ichiro where he would hit like 360 one year, you know what I mean? But like, he would consistently deliver you like above 300 batting average.
Yeah.
He hits enough home runs, and usually the home runs that he does hit are usually in clutch situations, i.e. the World Series. I don't know. He's just a sports legend. He did everything the right way. He played everything. He was just a class act, So, I mean, you're looking at the Hall of Fame votes. 396 voters out of 397 voted him in. So that's pretty much unanimous. So how can you and the previous caller disagree with 396 of 397 Hall of Fame voters? I mean, you guys think you know more than 396 Hall of Fame voters? I don't think so.
I don't think that I know that, but I think that I think there has been a shift in the guys that we let in and the guys that we don't. I feel like it used to be you got to have 300 wins, you got to have 500 homers, you got to have this and that. And, I mean, for Jeter, he does have those things. But I think, I don't know, I would assume that you could make it on the second year of the ballot. The Hall of Fame, you're talking about the best players ever, and it just goes to, it's not even really Jeter. I mean, Jeter's not like watering down the Hall of Fame. It's guys like Larry Walker that are. I mean, so
yeah.
But so I mean, my argument shouldn't be first and foremost with that. It's just I think it should be a little bit harder. I would be totally fine with him being like unanimous second year. I just think it should be a little bit harder to make. I think it should be a unanimous. I just think it should be those top guys like Bonds and Clemens kind of. And I think that Jeter.
You're basically.
I'm not saying that Jeter shouldn't have gotten 350 of the votes or whatever, but to get 396 out of 397. I mean, I don't know. That just seems like it seems like.
That tells you that there's one stupid asshole who has a.
I bet you. No. I bet you it's somebody from New York trying to preserve like the integrity of the game, or I guarantee you it's probably somebody from New York screwing you. But I don't know.
It's probably some.
They'll find the Boston guy and and hang him for not voting for Jeter.
This guy's name is gonna leak out. Believe me.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
If you don't piss off, you know how many Yankee fans there are and Jeter fans. You don't piss us off, dude. We're gonna find you. We're gonna expose you.
Yeah, Jeter made a call, had somebody in 5 minutes. Probably already knows.
but dude, I absolutely do agree with you on those fringe guys on who. I mean, push Jeter aside. Obviously, Jeter is probably one of the best shortstop of all time. I think he's the best shortstop of all time.
Yes, he's a great shortstop.
These other guys, I agree with you. Scott Rowland, if he gets in, these are guys who made a few All-Star games, but they just played a really long time. They're getting in over guys who are clearly the best ever, Bonds and Clemens. I agree with you. They should be in.
Yeah.
But don't be hating on Jeter that last kid, the Colton.
Oh, come on. It's more just it shouldn't be first. I don't know. It just should be. Again, it should.
I think when you're Jeter level, you get in on the first try.
Yeah.
When you're someone like Larry Walker, yeah, you should probably sweat out at least 10 years. I think he was on the ballot. He said he was on the ballot
for 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the kind of the fringe guys. Are the guys that
he only got in with over that 1.6%. You know, he was 1.6%.
So in your 10th year, Whitey, you have to have 75% of the vote, and he got 76.5 or whatever. So he was just over the threshold that you need to stay on for that 10th year. But it just disgusts me if you're going to have guys like Manny Ramirez that don't make it, and then I don't know, and then you're talking about
Manny should be in, dude. Manny was he scared the hell out of me. Every time a Yankee pitcher faced him, I was sweating. You know, I was peeing my pants. I was losing it. Manny terrified me. Big Papi terrified me. Those two should be in.
Yeah.
And also because those two collectively brought the Red Sox their first World Series in 80 years?
Oh yeah, 86.
So I think winning also has to matter.
Yeah.
Jeter has 5 rings. Manny and Papi. Papi has 2 rings? Manny has
I think
one
Papi's
ring,
got 3 rings, and Manny's got 2, I believe.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the thing with, some of these guys, you could say, oh, technically they're better than Jeter. But you know what? They didn't win. They didn't stay healthy, probably because they were doing steroids. You know, look at, Nomar. Look, who's that A's shortstop? He's, Dominican. He was in that photo shoot with, Nomar. Yeah,
Tejada. Ah.
Yeah. Technically, you could have said that he was actually a better shortstop skills-wise. You could have said that Tulowitzki was better skills-wise, but they didn't put together, the resume. They didn't win the chips. They didn't, stay healthy. I mean, that's just what it is. There's tons of players that are more talented than others, but they get hurt. Look at Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady probably was the best talent-wise, one of the best in the league, but he couldn't stay healthy. He made the Hall of Fame anyway, but that's a whole other story. But
well, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he doesn't have a Hall of Fame resume. You know what I mean? Clearly, I would be taking pills if I was up here saying that he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. I just think if you're talking first-time unanimous, and I get your point. He's probably about as close as it should be. I don't think that Rivera should have been unanimous, but that's a different story. But it's
come on, he has the most saves in history. He's the best reliever of all time.
But I told you, I've done this with you before, right? Say that Pedro Martinez, you wanted to just use him for 1 inning a game. How good would he be? Would anybody ever touch that ball? So it's just the closers are always failed starters. In most cases, that's how Rivera's career started. He was a starter who got blown up a lot, and they said, let's take this guy, put him in the bullpen. And I'm not saying he didn't become one of the best closers ever, but just closers as a position, I have something against.
Well, I think when you're the best closer of all time and have the most saves and have 5 World Series rings, you're unanimous. And him and Jeter are forever tied together. They're both the most successful duo. Then when you add in Andy Pettitte, all these other guys, but what was I gonna say? So I guess you just have a fundamental problem with relievers being elected into the Hall of Fame. But you know what? Okay, so I
have a problem with the position. I think it's very specialized. I think back in the day, guys went the whole game. It's kind of like if you were going to put in. I bet you don't have a bunch of guys that are field goal kickers pegged for the Hall of Fame, do you?
See, I was about to say that. if there's one kicker who is by far the best kicker of all time, and it's not even close, you throw him in the Hall of Fame. If you're that much better than everyone else in whatever position you play, you make the Hall of Fame. You can't just say, oh, you couldn't hack it as a starter when he was literally like 21 years old in 1995. Like
I just think take any top pitcher in the game though, and like any guy that can throw like 100 or whatever. Like, just like imagine even if you took like Bartolo Colon, a guy who could throw 100 miles an hour, 100 pitches into the game. A guy that could throw 100 miles an hour, like 100 pitches into the game, like that guy could still throw. I mean, imagine if you put him in a closing situation, he'd probably be throwing like 106 miles an hour. So it's just like.
Yeah. I mean, they do that, like, nowadays. They do throw, like, in the playoffs, they'll always throw, like, they're throwing Scherzer, like, in relief duties, for that one big game.
Yeah, they're starting.
So I get that, but
baseball nerds.
It is a different mindset, though. Starters they're like the long game. Like closers, relievers, you come into the highest pressurized environment, and you can't give up a run at all costs. Whereas a starter comes in, you can give up a run that inning.
Yeah.
You just go out to the next inning. Just so.
You make it sound like it's nothing if you give up a run.
Yeah, if you give up a run as a starter, big deal. You're going to go out the next inning. If you're a reliever and you have a one-run lead in the 8th inning, that's like the most high-pressure like situations ever.
Yeah.
So you have to give them credit to a degree for that. I agree. Like they're technically they can't. They wouldn't be able to do that for 8 innings or whatever, but still, I mean, their job is no walk in the park.
No, it's not to say that I don't give them any credit. It's not to say that, but I've seen guys like Todd Jones. I've seen guys like Ugi Urbina. I've seen guys that have come in and had, like, amazing years as a closer that I did not think were great pitchers. I get that Rivera did it the longest, the most consistent. He was the best, but I just think, like, as a position – but sure, fine. You want to put him in? Okay. But does he have to be unanimous? Does he have to be the first guy that's unanimous? I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
He's unanimous, baby. All day of the week.
Well, hey, let's transition a little bit to just, before we let you go. You got the 49ers against the Chiefs. Who are you liking in that one? Because the last thing people want to hear us talk about is closers, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to talk football, but if someone starts slandering Jeter,
I know
night that he makes the Hall of Fame with one vote less of unanimous. But you know what? The 49ers, their pass rush is just too ridiculous. With that being said, I think Mahomes is the one guy who won't get destroyed by it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like any other quarterback would get absolutely destroyed. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers. He got destroyed by that defense. But I just think Mahomes is just on another level. And the fact that he has Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, like he has these weapons where I think it really comes down to the DBs, right, the secondary against Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, who are pretty much unguardable. I mean, Tyreek Hill, that guy is so ridiculously fast. How are you expected to guard him? You think Richard Sherman's guarding him? No way.
No, I don't think. I think this is actually going to expose Sherman in a big way because he usually guards the left side of the field. I think they're going to put Tyreek Hill on the right side of the field and make him streak and run around all day. And just
Richard Sherman has no chance of guarding Tyreek Hill. And pretty much nobody can guard Kelsey. The guy's a beast. He's like Gronk 2.0.
Oh,
so I just think those guys will get open. And I know, you have Bosa and Bruckner. They're going to get pressure, but I think, Mahomes, he can scramble around, and I think he'll find them. Like they'll get open. So I think this is Mahomes' year.
Yeah.
I don't think Jimmy G, they have like a creative offense, right? Like it's efficient. They can run the ball really well.
Oh, yeah, you got to give it up to Kyle Shanahan. I mean, they can definitely win. They can score 35 points any way they want, really.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan is a genius. Like, he's really good, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to Jimmy G versus Mahomes. And Mahomes was the MVP last year. He probably could have been MVP this year if he didn't get hurt.
Yep.
And Mahomes is just unstoppable. So it's gonna be a good game. I'm actually really excited for this game, but I think
Yeah, I am
pull
too.
it out.
Yeah. Well, hey, we appreciate you checking in with us. I know you're kind of on the job right now, so appreciate you calling in, and hope you have a good night, man.
Yeah, luckily I was able to squeeze out some work before being distracted by that lunacy that was before me.
Well, hey, man, thanks for checking in, man, and we'll talk to you later. Hopefully your blood pressure's all right. Just take those heart pills.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. Later.
All right, later.
So there we have it. You know, you got the ultimate, you got the anti-Jeter, and then you got the pro-Jeter right there, all in one swoop. So, you know, a couple things to take from that. I think we transition here into the NFL, and you've got a hell of a matchup in this is going to be one of the more captivating Super Bowls. I think everyone kind of gets captivated when their team is in it. You know, you're obviously going to be excited. But I think this is a matchup of two high-flying offenses, two young quarterbacks, two very innovative offensive minds in Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid. And I think you also have a chance for two guys to redeem their legacies, really. You know, you've got Andy Reid, who, how many times has he come up short at the altar? And then you've got Kyle Shanahan, who gave away a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. You've got two guys that have really kind of come as close as you can. And Andy Reid getting to 4 consecutive NFC Championship games. He's just been there so many times. He's got a great offensive mind. It's a 1.5-point spread, and quite honestly, I like the Chiefs a lot. I like the Chiefs. I don't think that means that the Chiefs are going to win by 10, 20. I still think it's going to be a close game. But I just think I agree with White that you just can't stop Mahomes. I mean, this year, I mean, the run that he had in the game this weekend where everything broke down, I mean, he can run when he has to. He can throw it any way he needs to. He's got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce at his disposal. And Tyreek Hill did the dog peeing celebration. And I just wonder why we let Tyreek Hill get away with so much. Tyreek Hill is a guy that, was arrested for battery. He was, he was threatening his ex-wife on text or whatever it was or something like that, saying, talking about kind of like beating their kid. And then he comes out, he's just been this guy that I feel like the NFL in their quest to knock off the Patriots to some degree just will not fine Tyreek Hill obviously he's going to get a fine for that, but it's like they just will not give Tyreek Hill like the knockout blow. I'm just surprised. Why do we continue to give this guy the extra mile, the extra due? It's like just because this guy plays with Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. He's young, he can throw it, and I think that they're just going to, if you look at the 49ers too, as I mentioned, it's been tough for them to go against running quarterbacks. They haven't been as good against running quarterbacks. Not like Mahomes is a running quarterback, but he can definitely run when things break down, as we saw that 56-yard run or 60-yard run last weekend. But I don't know. I just think Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he's a little bit of a game manager, and I think that offense that they put together with that running game, Raheem Mostert putting together 200 yards, running for 4 touchdowns, I just think they're not going to be able to keep up with the high-flying offense of the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know that the 49ers have really been like a Swiss Army knife. They've won in a million different types of ways, and they're a great team. But I just think this is where they come up short. I kind of looked at the Titans like this. They played the best they could, but I just knew they were going to come up short, to the Mahomes Express. It's just like Mahomes can score in such a flash, and he just is a quarterback that we really haven't seen. A quarterback with the pocket presence and arm of an Aaron Rodgers, and then somebody that can break down and scramble, almost like like a Russell Wilson. So he just can do it all, and it should be definitely exciting to see. it brings up something for me. Is Richard Sherman an elite corner? I can't tell because some of these games he makes the pick. Sometimes he's not. I mean, there's so much criticism that goes back and forth between him and Darrelle Revis and between him and other people because Sherman's so braggadocious, but he only covers one side of the field, and a lot of times his interceptions, they're kind of balls where it's almost like thrown to him, and I just think this is going to be the ultimate chance to expose Richard Sherman. I think they're going to put Tyreek Hill on that right side of the field and run him up and down and just let him really have his way with Richard Sherman because it seems like he's back. He's got that burst, 2 touchdowns last week, and I just think Tyreek Hill is absolutely going to leave Richard Sherman in the dust. So that's one matchup I'm looking for. Brian, have you seen any of this Aaron Hernandez documentary?
I absolutely did. I watched all of it.
Yeah? Was there anything that really stood out to you? Did you know much of his story, or was there anything that you kind of gleaned that was new?
Well, I was keeping up with it as it was happening, but it kind of that's getting on. I mean, he committed suicide in I think it was 2017, right? So getting on 2.5 or so years ago, and a lot of it faded, from memory. And one thing that did specifically was that the connection between him and Odin Lloyd were through his fiancée and her sister. You know, and that they sat on separate sides of the courtroom through all of it. I had forgotten about all that, and there was good footage of some of the the courtroom dramas, and I forgot that Robert Kraft had to testify. You know? I had forgotten that.
Do you think there's anything wrong with kind of commercializing, almost kind of celebrating the life of Aaron Hernandez? Do you feel like
I don't think it was commercializing or celebrating. I think it was a pretty fair and balanced sort of reportorial, documentarian, neutral observer as it could be, and tried to pull together all of the facets of Aaron Hernandez's life.
Yep. But do you feel like it's almost like we keep saying we can't make an excuse for murder, but the documentary somewhat tries to make somewhat of an excuse? It's kind of painting the reasons why he ended up there. Almost. I feel like, and maybe you don't, but it's kind of like you're painting the story behind him, kind of showing who he was. He was this real guy, and that there were reasons kind of behind it, the head injuries, and I just feel like there's kind of this, we're not making excuses for a murderer, but here are some of the reasons why he.
I took the tone of it to be, this was a tragedy all around. They gave a lot of time to Odin Lloyd's story and family, and the impact it had on them. So I felt like the tone of the documentary was, this was a tragedy all around.
Sure.
Here's what we know of the people involved.
Yep. And I guess I just feel like, I feel like that too, that it was a tragedy all around, that they did try to paint that. But I just do feel like there is a little bit of almost feeling bad for Aaron Hernandez. And, I just wonder if that's any.
I see. I think
no.
I think in their telling of Odin Lloyd's story, that's how they offset that. They weren't feeling bad for Hernandez. They were making sure everybody knew the pain he had inflicted.
Yeah.
On Odin Lloyd and his Odin Lloyd's family.
Yeah.
And the way, I mean, the involvement of that arcane Massachusetts law that was changed because of his suicide. You know,
Yep.
there were it's a somewhat of it's a twisting and turning story. You know, the narrative is fascinating in and of
Yeah.
itself. The facts of the case there's enough to make a.
I think some people are so shocked by just the matter of factness that he was able to compartmentalize his life.
Of course,
You
of
kind of
course.
see him
Yeah.
coming back post what seems like the Odin Lloyd murder. I mean, obviously it is, and
it's
him being able to almost pick up his
and that's the
infant
type
child and
yeah, exactly. And those facts of the case are so contradictory that it's the type of thing that there is no one thing that you can point to that caused it. So try and
Sure.
just get out there everything that you do know, whether you do know,
to me it kind of seemed like.
I mean,
go ahead.
well, and the Dr. McKee, I think, the one who's led all of the brain trauma studies, she said it was the most damaged
Right.
by concussion brain she'd ever seen. So it definitely ties in the whole NFL concussion scandal and issue there. So just what kept coming out about the whole in the story was such a intriguing narrative in and of itself that
Yeah.
but if they were to only focus on Hernandez, it very much could have the tone of making apologies for a killer.
Yeah.
I think they balanced that by focusing so much on Odin Lloyd's story. I think Ryan O'Callahan and his interviews were, added some of the context,
Yep.
some of the perspective you don't usually hear from.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it kind of seemed like his mother was really like this, tough influence on Hernandez. That it kind of seemed like, once she was out of the picture, once she was out of the picture, it was kind of like, when he was like 15 or something, it seemed like that's when things really changed for him, where he started to get into the gangbanger life, and it seemed like it was kind of like his first taste of freedom.
Yeah, well, and it was also I think the one of Odin Lloyd's teammates, kind of passed a comment that might have been unnoticed, but he referred to Hernandez as the fake gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he had tried so hard. I mean, they have the pictures from Florida of him posing in the mirror with the gun and smiling and all that. Yeah. I think what happened to him is he was a fake gangster, and then I think he got too involved in drugs where he was just so paranoid that he actually became a gangster because it was that he was so afraid of that one guy that he had shot the one time, the one guy that he shot in the face that didn't die, Bradley.
Yep.
And he was afraid of that guy coming at. And it's amazing too. Just it's as simple as if he gets rid of the home security system or doesn't have it in the first place, I mean, there's 90% of the case.
Yep.
So, some pretty crazy stuff out of the. I feel like everybody has gotten sucked into this one way or the other, and it's been a pretty captivating series.
Yeah, it was well done. It was I think fair. Pretty balanced, pretty fair in covering all the people that were affected.
Yeah. Now, as we turn the page a little bit to the NBA, the Celtics beat the Lakers last night, the rivalry's biggest rout in 50 years. So just a absolutely, over-the-top performance by this young Celtics team. You had a lot of guys contributing in a lot of different ways. Kemba Walker was 0 for 28 against LeBron James' career. Got his first win. So, but a few things that we want to look at. Just a couple things. I think everybody's getting really excited about that win, but, cooling it down just a little bit. Anthony Davis had been out for 5 straight games. It was his first game back. Really wasn't getting full minutes. LeBron was kind of out at a tournament for his son all day. So, and I think the Lakers are the type of team that can take games off. The Celtics, it's not really their nature to take games off. It's the way they play. They really don't have kind of the talent. It's all based around kind of like everybody on an every night, churning out that effort. And they're usually the team that can win on some grit, some extra. And that's really kind of what they won on last night. But the Lakers are a team that when they get way down, they've got some older players, they've got some veterans. They're definitely the type of team that's going to take their foot off the pedals. So while last night was a great game for the Celtics, and while I want to take a lot of positives out of it, especially for Enes Kanter, who, again, with these minutes is continuing to put up the performance that we were hoping for. He's like 9-8 now in 18 minutes, and over his past few games, he's really been putting up a lot of double-digit contests. And a guy that, again, doesn't play a whole lot of minutes, but his he's really shown out and been able to give this team some extra rebounding, especially for a team that often plays Jason Tatum at the 4, and a team that's really gotten dominated, quite frankly, by the 76ers. So they need all the height that they can get. Now, the thing that's really got me excited is Zion Williamson is making his NBA debut tomorrow. And, it says that he's going to be up, got some sleepless nights ahead of him. Going to be making a pretty well-anticipated debut. I'm really excited for Zion. I think the NBA needs a guy like Zion. Zion, to me, is kind of like a guy like Magic Johnson, where he just brings that infectious smile. He kind of brings that love to the game. You can kind of see the passion. Zion's playing every night like it's his last game, and you can't quite say that for a lot of guys. He may be coming out of his shoes. He may be little bit bigger than some of the dimensions say he should be, but he's giving you everything he's got, and he's incredibly exciting. And I can't wait to see kind of how well this team does. It looks like it was like this team in the offseason, you kind of just looked at they were just going to have Zion. But now with the way that they've grown, Lonzo Ball has really elevated his game. Brandon Ingram has really elevated his game. I mean, he's almost an MVP candidate. So I'm going to be interested to see how those two mesh together, Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. They were both kind of supposed to be the stars of the team. And I think there's enough scoring to go around for both of them. I think Zion's going to be able to score, and I think that Lonzo's going to be able to set him up. I mean, they're a team that gets out. They play fast. They're a team that pretty much is always leading in pace. So I like them to, against the Spurs tomorrow, I like Zion Williamson to get his first win. I think he's going to put up something like 16 points, 6 rebounds. I don't think he's going to get a ton of minutes. So I think he's probably going to play 20, 25 minutes, give you maybe 16 and 6. We'll see. But I think they're going to try to ease him in a little bit. It seems like they have this whole plan about his whatever chain of movement. They're trying to change the way he walks and runs so that he's bearing less weight. So they're trying all these different things with him, but he's just got to get out on the court and ball, and I'm excited to see him do that. So tomorrow night we're going to have Zion Mania, the Zion King, finally making his debut. As, let's see. We have everybody is still kind of speculating where Tom Brady is going to go. We actually have a clip from Dana White. I love this clip because you can tell that Dana White doesn't pay any attention to football. He's just purely spinning this out of anywhere. But I like how everybody has a saying on where Tom Brady's going to go, and even Dana White does. And let's let that play.
Oh, now you want to talk about Tom Brady, right? What was he what?
His opinion of the fight.
Oh, how would you not like the fight? I thought when she asked me the question earlier, I thought you guys were going to ask me, hey, Tom Brady was here. Davis was here. I saw them talking. What's going on? Are you guys Las Vegans or what? Come on, man. If that dude isn't playing for Boston, he's playing here. All right? So, I don't know. No idea what I'm talking about, but yeah, he liked to fight.
And there you have it. You've got it there from Dana White, but just talking about the situation with Tom Brady. And a lot of people, I've heard Boomer Esiason saying that he's kind of narrowed it down to he thinks that it could either be the Patriots or San Diego. A lot of people are talking about Brady coming back.
Los Angeles,
thank you. And a lot of people talking nationally and locally have been talking about Brady potentially coming back to the Patriots. And I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a one-year deal to get things done. I don't think they're going to give him that long-term satisfaction that he so wants. But they keep talking about this. Say you even go cheap and you sign a quarterback like Andy Dalton, you somehow get him to commit to $15 million. You still have to pay almost like $25 on the salary cap hit. So you may as well just keep Brady and actually make him happy if you think he's the quarterback that can continue to get you wins while you're in this transitory period. And I think he is. I think he's the guy that gives them the best chance to win. I don't think that the young guy is quite ready. I think he needs another year of seasoning before he's ready. And I think that Tom Brady definitely gives this team the best chance to win. So I think they should put something together, a one-year deal. I don't know if Brady's even going to accept something like a one-year deal. But I think the Pats ultimately get this done. We've seen so many times Brady kind of give in at the last second. And I don't know. I kind of felt like I saw Brady going to another team. But the longer this goes on, the more I'm kind of seeing him come back for a one-year deal. With Josh McDaniels coming back, staying in the fold, I don't think he's going anywhere as of right now, but I know that kind of changes week to week. Brian, if you have to put your Tom Brady destination for next year out there.
I hate this exercise. Because I feel like it's like like the Super Bowl. It's like a 1.5 point spread that he goes somewhere or comes back to the Pats. You know, like I can't tell.
I know. And he
all
doesn't want to say anything.
And I mean, all indications are that he's entertaining. I mean, he's entertaining free agency for the first time, and he's going all in on it.
Yeah.
You know, like it was all of his other contract years. He was just like no brainer, taking a discount. Let's sign some players on to next year. Now
There's rumors too that there's a legit 6 to 8 teams too that are willing to put together and I know that seems like it may be like a no-brainer, but in the beginning everyone kind of said, well, what destinations for Tom Brady, right? Like what are actually like the perfect ones, and then kind of boiling them down to there's not a whole ton of them. But now it feels like there's like 6 to 8 quarterbacks or 6 to 8 teams that are going to evaluate him at least. And you got to figure that Tom Brady can at least get you the production, can at least take a team like Minnesota and be like what they plugged in with Kirk Cousins. And you look how willingly they were to pay him 3 years, $90 million guaranteed. So Tom Brady's going to get some pretty good offers.
Most certainly. And, I think the one thing that you can probably predict a little bit about his decision-making process is that it is going to very much matter to him if that team can win in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting too.
Like I don't see him going anywhere solely to be the most ridiculously highest paid quarterback.
I don't think
over
so
these
either.
Next 2 or 3 years. He wants at least 2 years, obviously. and
he needs to find a team like
from
what
there he wants to
Jacksonville was a
win,
couple
and then
years
he
ago.
wants to get paid. I think he really wants to make a statement with this next contract.
I think he does too. I mean, everything sounds like that, and I think he wants to make sure that he gets paid. And I just don't see the Patriots offering him 3 years. I don't see them doing it.
They probably would be foolish to do so.
So, but there's going to be 6 or 8 other teams out there that are probably going to do it. So we'll see how that matters in the grand scheme. As we hear from Dana White and his latest predictions on it, nobody closer to the source than him. And no one closer to the source than us as we are checking out from another edition of Open Season. For Brian Murphy, I'm Billy Allen, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, everybody knows it, Jimmy.
I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad.